Good morning. I think we are on. We're live. Sabaho, everybody. Oh man, Sabah, welcome back to the chat. Welcome back to the show. It is Saturday morning. Well, actually, it's another episode of Saturday Morning with Tech. This time it's episode 66. And hopefully I'm doing the numbers right on my show because obviously I'm messing it up all the way on the best of our week. It is April 10th, 2021. And apparently I'm late to the show because everybody's already kind of hanging out with us here. Sabaho, El Josa's in the comment. Demir's in there as well. Davin Davis. Richard's in there. Chemi's in the chat. Hey, man, hope you're doing well. And of course, Abdelaisa's in there as well. Everybody else is hanging out, kicking it. And of course, just, having fun on this really nice Guten Morgen, Gert. Hopefully I'm saying that. Okay, Gert Grabo. And then Abdelaziz as well. Sabaha, ahlan wa sahlan. Dude, appreciate it. Always appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. And it is a nice it's a nice week. It's been actually an interesting week because it's actually spring break for us here in the US for my son, not for me. And so for the most part, it's been basically kind of juggling, just normal posting content and so on. And then, of course, trying to have some fun a little bit with my son. And in at least in California, for us, we finally started to reopen theme parks. Some parts of the U.S. had theme parks open for some time, but in the U.S., at least in California, we're starting to see theme parks opening up, and which is very, very nice. So we've been hitting up Magic Mountain. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it. It's just a roller coaster type of a theme park, and we've been hitting it up a couple of times now. Definitely enjoying it. Sergius is starting us off with the right question here. Is what is your thought on the Mi 11? So now the Mi 11, we're going to talk about a couple of things. Okay. Let's talk about the OnePlus Watch. Any spoilers so far, Davin Davis? So we are going to talk about the OnePlus Watch. We are going to be able to talk also about the Mi 11 Ultra as well. I want to talk to you guys a little bit. The device was announced and it was highly anticipated, at least for me. I was very excited to be able to get my hands on the Mi 11 Ultra. I got a chance to play a little bit with the Mi 11, the Mi 11 Lite, and I got a flavor of what Xiaomi is doing for their Mi 11 series. Now, there is technically a Mi 11 Pro, but that one's not coming to the international market. So there's a little bit of a difference as to what internationally you're going to be able to pick up if you want to. There's going to be the Lite, the Mi 11 Lite, and there's going to be a 4G and a 5G model. There's two different versions there. And then, of course, that's basically their entry level to the Mi series. Then you get the Mi 11, which is what I think we were talking about there. And of course, and where you're getting essentially in the chat, old past gold man. Good morning, sabaho. So the short conversation there is the Ultra is culminating everything that we wanted to see in Xiaomi's main flagships. And I think it took a lot of pages. Like they went over to what Samsung did with the S21 Ultra and, of course, what Apple did with their device on the 12 Pro Max. So you're getting a large display form factor, a very nice, gorgeous display, 120 hertz QHD resolution, obviously running them at the same time, a large 5,000 milliampere battery, 67 watts on both wired and wireless. I mean, both are going to be fastest. Obviously, the other two flagships are not even going to come close to that. The big difference, of course, is the fact that this also has triple camera sensors in the back that are very, very functional. A primary that is at a 50 megapixel sensor, and that's going to be the GN2 sensor that we just saw, that just literally the first device to run the sensor from Samsung. And of course, what we also have is the 48 megapixel sensor, dual sensors. One is an ultra wide and one's a telephoto. And what I really liked about it is what they gave us with the options there, as well as that little display that's present ever so slightly on the right side of that phone, on the back there as well. Rahul's asking, is there any ads? It's typical to any kind of Xiaomi MIUI device. If you're using their first party apps, let's say, you turn those on, those apps, those are going to actually have some ads in them, but I typically don't necessarily use them all the time. So I don't really have that much of an issue with the ads that have been built in there. Samsung's doing it as well. It's kind of weird to kind of say that, they're not the only ones doing it anymore. And I feel like more companies are putting advertising in there. I mean, even in the Samsung Pay app on Samsung devices, now you're getting targeted ads for promotions and so on like that. So it's not uncommon, but you can definitely steer away from it. The first thing I did do, though, when I turned on the phone, I disabled the scanner and I disabled, what is it called? I think the virus scanner and the cleaner. I disabled both of those because those were a little bit, I feel like they turned them on by default. And I feel like we should have the option to turn those on if we need them. So that's the Mi 11 Ultra as far as what it goes. Joe's in the comment as well. What's up, Gary the fireman? Welcome, man. Welcome, everybody. So as far as the ad, yeah, this is typical MIUI. Android 11, MIUI 12. Still no 12.5. I was hoping 12.5 will come out with the Mi 11 Ultra. One thing I would definitely say is the camera on the back, or at least the display next to the camera on the back, is very, very nice. Although I feel like they're missing a couple of things, and I'm wanting them to add those features as soon as possible. The first thing I would probably say is it's available for camera, so you can use it on the camera. And if you guys had a chance to check out the hands-on video that I put out, the TK Essential video there, you'll notice that the functions for that right now is limited to a certain apps. So the built-in music app as well as the Spotify app. You can only use it right now with photo mode, not portrait mode, not video mode, but only photo mode within the camera app from Xiaomi. And I feel like the limit there, what I feel, although great for taking pictures, if you want to take rear camera selfies with the ultra wide, the telephoto, or the standard camera, it's really where video I feel like would be the best situation, that I think, especially for content creation. And the reason I say this, the sensors that we have on the back on here, which makes it very different than the two other flagships, let's say the 12 Pro Max as well as the 11 S21 Ultra, is the fact that you can shoot 8K 24 frames per second with any one of the three sensors in the back. You can shoot 4K 60 with any one of the three sensors in the back. All of the modes, everything that you see on the as far as like the high-end features that you get on the smartphone when it comes to camera, are available on all three sensors in the back, because Xiaomi is really giving you heavy emphasis on the performance there and what they want you to do. So I felt like when they gave us all of those, but they only give us the feature for the camera, I feel like that's kind of a little bit of maybe a delayed feature. Obviously, a very much a software thing. This has nothing to do with hardware limitations, since they've used it before. Other than that, you can customize a couple of things. You can add your own picture, your own special message, and everything like that. I think that's going to be a very nice feature there. So all of those, thank you very much, Sergius. Always appreciate it. Always with the super sticker there, or I think it's a super chat. I'm not sure. I think StreamYard's changing the way we see it, but thank you. Always appreciate it there. So there are some things in the news. Obviously, people are going to start talking about the Pixel Watch, or what they're referring to, and I think I saw that for ER1980, Pixel Watch and the Pixel 6. Dang, yes, Whitechapel. I mean, so Google is definitely gunning to make an impact and make a big presence in 2021. So the big shift in approach to Pixel 6 is going to be obviously something that a lot of us are going to be paying attention to. Google going in with Samsung to build in and actually supporting it on their flagship device, whatever basically I would say performance level that we're expecting out of it, even if it is comparable to, let's say, an 855 and 865. It's still going to be a massive improvement over what we've seen before with, at least last year, right? We saw a 7 series processor, a very capable series. But if you kept really track of what's going on, the Pixel 4 or the Pixel 4 XL with the 855 still in reason kind of like outperform it, mostly because of the neural core. So hopefully when they're focusing on their own silicon, that they actually bring the neural core back. And I think Juan and I kind of talk about that as well on Thursday's show. So yeah, definitely looking forward to that. And that, so the things about the Pixel Watch, I'm seeing it differ, going a couple of ways. Some people are saying it is an actual watch. Some of them are actually saying it's just basically a health monitor type of an app, type of an accessory. So we'll have to see what that offers. I mean, obviously the OnePlus Watch it's going pretty big also on the announcement, if you think about it. And if you guys got a chance to see, I posted a couple of pictures, and I think somebody was caught it that in my video on the Mi 11 Ultra, I was wearing 2 watches at the time, and it's like, hey, what's the other watch on the other hand? And yes, if you ever see me wearing 2 watches, just again, a little bit of a disclaimer. Typically, if I'm going to start to test out a watch, I need to wear it to be able to use it to gather some metrics. So there's that metric gathering function time, and you can't gather the metric without wearing it. And I'm not going to wear 2 watches on one hand. I always do one right and left. So it ends up looking like I'm wearing 2 watches, but I typically carry 2 phones. So it doesn't really hurt to have a secondary connection there. But definitely very, very nice. So do you think Google will make a foldable device this year? You know what? With all the indications that we've seen, so first and foremost, Google I/O, literally about a month away. Announcements came out, the registrations have been out to people, and the reality is, I don't know if Google would want to jump into that foldable technology yet. Typically, Google doesn't lead in hardware development. They typically always will adapt, or they'll get on something that has been sitting there and basically maybe been developed, and at least been the water's been tested with it. Foldables, as far as devices, we've had them maybe for about a couple of years that have been basically mainstream. And I'm not talking about the Royale Flex, that the initial version that came out, I think it was 2 years ago at 2019 CES. I'm talking about basically just availability in the market itself. So first thing is, I don't think Google's jumping into it. I think we're going to have enough from other parties. Although to the fact that obviously the news that came out early this week, LG will not be releasing their version of their rollable device. If anything else, we know at least Xiaomi is jumping into it with the Mi Mix Fold. We also know Oppo is going to be jumping into it with their foldable. I think the Oppo X 2021. And if I'm not mistaken, TCL at CES actually announced a whole bunch of different things. They even had one that was kind of like a scroll option thing. So the answer is we're going to have other options, and of course the successor to the Fold from last year, and of course if we're not mistaken, we can't forget Huawei. But Huawei also released their version of their foldable, so we are going to have a certain number of devices that are premium devices that are going to be foldables and available. So Google jumping into it at this point, I feel like I'll say this. I think for Google to jump into foldables, they would need to first maybe tackle in desktop mode, that feature that's been baked into Android that hasn't been developed and basically has minor improvements over time, but we haven't really seen a lot of improvements outside of basically what Samsung and One UI, and even, I guess, unfortunately too, because what LG was doing for their devices. So they've improved desktop mode on Android, but that was pretty much what we got. OnePlus devices still have the option for us to turn it on, but it isn't really a very fine-tuned experience. So not even OnePlus is focusing on it. Let me see here. But yeah, no. So at least with foldables, I don't think Google's jumping into that. I think Whitechapel is going to be the main thing. White Castle is what what I want to have for lunch. But I feel like, the watch option as well, hopefully we'll see something from them, what their approach to it. I mean, Wear OS has been around for many, many years, and we see a lot more options now on Wear OS than we've seen in the past. But we're starting to see other options. I mean, other companies are releasing phones and watches and so on. So we'll have to see. I'm not saying that they will never happen. I'm just saying at least not in 2021. Let me see if I'm mixing anything else. I think I'm going through some of these comments. Dominic is in there as well. Hey, man. Good morning. Only a couple of days. Oh man. Backside bad while recording video. Is that true? Okay, so let's start talking a little bit more about the Mi 11 Ultra. So the Mi 11 Ultra as a performance, as just a daily driving device, if you're using this on the daily, and keep in mind that my usage within the last 5 days has not been basically, I would say, a typical day of usage on a daily on a smartphone that I'm using on the daily, that I'm not testing. When I'm testing a phone, it obviously takes into a whole different. I factor in a much more heavier usage, much more, a lot more images are taken, a lot more videos are taken, a lot more strain on the performance when it comes to battery and everything like that. And consistently within the last 5 days, I haven't lost power to the point where I've killed the device. So I've gotten down to about 10% at the end of the day, and that was even after a whole day of spending it at Magic Mountain with the family, taking pictures, taking videos, and just all around being on the phone, enjoying it. There was that initial setup couple of days that I got it. I literally took it out of the box, put my account into it, and I was setting it up as I was walking around the park, because that's how it was. That's how, I would say, late breaking kind of the experience was. So overall, battery life is great. MIUI manages memory the way MIUI has been managing it in the past. 5,000 milliampere battery works really nice. And you are able to turn on a feature within the WQHD on the display to be able to allow you to save some battery. So you don't have to run WQHD and 120 all the time. It does have a little bit of a smart adjustment options in there. Now, as far as the overall performance, it actually felt a lot faster than even the Mi 11, although the Mi 11 did feature 120 hertz. But I feel like the WQHD with the 120 gave us a little bit better of a UI element, like fluidity overall, like just transferring from one page to the other. All of those things were really nice. As far as applications and so on, everything ran the way you did imagine it. There was no issues for me as far as applications. I was not able to get 5G in the US. That is a big thing that you want to be aware of. I am able to get 4G LTE, and that is actually pretty decent. So about 77 down, about 30 up, if I'm not mistaken. I think I have the app. Obviously, I still have the app installed. Let's just go ahead and jump in real quick into results. Yeah, 71 down and 7 up on one of my sessions, and the other one was 35 up and 35 down and 25 up. So again, I wouldn't call this obviously 5G connectivity because it doesn't support the bands, but it still worked quite well. I mean, for most things, updating apps and so on, everything else worked great. Benchmarks were actually pretty decent. As long as you ran them in the game turbo, you're also able to see some improvements. It performed the best at 1080p 60, and that's mostly because I feel like the horsepower, the processing power, and everything is basically just running more optimal. It doesn't have to push so many pixels. It doesn't have to refresh the display at much higher refreshes. So although very close to WQHD, so QHD and 120, I still think that in Game Pro or in the Game Turbo app, it actually optimizes the system to run a little bit better. Outside of that, it still ran exactly as we expect. Very similar to the Mi 11. It is not a throttled experience. This is not Samsung. This is Xiaomi. Xiaomi just gave you all the power. Now, unfortunately, that also means that we also get some of the heat with it. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, I've been using it with the case that came included in the box. There's a clear case that Xiaomi includes, which I really like, actually. I like the fact that Xiaomi still includes cases in their boxes. So it's a clear TPU. Well, that's not a TPU. It's a clear case, very thin, not exactly going to be protecting our hands from any kind of thermals. It does get warm. It definitely gets warm and gets warm to the touch. Playing Genshin Impact, playing PUBG Mobile, as well as Call of Duty Mobile for the test that I shared with you guys. So I'll say this. PUBG Mobile and Call of Duty played very nicely. I was able to get consistent 90 frames per second, 40 frames per second. I think, if I'm not mistaken, about 40 to 60 frames per second on the PUBG, and I was able to get up to 90 on the Call of Duty Mobile. That was just crazy, and that's how we expected. Everything is extreme, everything at the highest level, UHD all. When it came down to Genshin, I did run it on extreme on highest, so everything was set to high, frames were set to 60, and that's where I was able to get some of the heat. So it did definitely get warm, and it gets warm to about 110 Fahrenheit. Make sure you understand it's a Fahrenheit temperature in the US, but it translates to roughly about 40 or so degrees Celsius. So it definitely gets warm. It dissipates the heat. This is the biggest thing that you want to be aware of. The heat that we feel on a smartphone is not the fact that that phone is not doing its job. It's doing its job to dissipate the heat. It needs to release that heat so that the phone does not overheat and shut down from temperature, too much of a high temperature. But the one thing I probably would say is that it is something that you want to be aware of when you're doing long gaming sessions. So I wouldn't necessarily charge the phone and play with it at the same time. The 5,000 milliampere battery will do a good job there. So hopefully I'm answering that question as best as I could with the short kind of impressions of the Mi 11 Ultra. But throughout the temperatures, even when it did start to feel warm in the hand, I didn't skip a beat. It didn't skip frames. It didn't stutter. It didn't have any problems with the game. Genshin was running perfectly fine, transitioning from the characters, going in between different things. And again, I was having it render everything. Call of Duty Mobile, as you can imagine, very fast paced, very kick-ass, but the temperatures didn't get as high. And I'm assuming it's something to do with the level of work. Call of Duty Mobile doesn't have open world experience, so there's a different mechanics in the game, so it doesn't have to render as much, and it's mostly focusing on whatever's on my display. So that's the biggest difference. The same thing with PUBG Mobile. Although PUBG Mobile has a little bit of an open space, but I feel like it's limited by the compatibility. So both of those didn't really make the phone as hot as when I played Genshin Impact. And of course, Undead Horde is going to be one of the next games I'm going to be playing on as I work with my full review on the phone. So we'll just keep that in mind. Juan Carlos convinced me on Thursday, and I downloaded the game. So I've been playing that for the last few days, enjoying it very much. So, okay, here's a good question. Sajab is asking a quick question here. So, hi, bro. I have one question. I feel like to brand Xiaomi loses its. Okay, so I'm not sure if you mean essentially is Xiaomi losing its edge, or is Xiaomi basically not at the top of its game? And I feel like Xiaomi is it's doing what Xiaomi does. I mean, it's been the last couple of years now where we've seen Xiaomi literally produce so many devices in a year that it becomes almost hard to tell what is what. Now, there's the Xiaomi the Xiaomi brand, and then you have obviously the Redmi, and then you also have the Poco. There's different, and then of course there's the Black Shark as well. So there's different sub brands of Xiaomi. I feel like what Xiaomi's trying to do right now is trying to more focus their experience. They gave us the standard, the Mi 11, the Mi 11 Lite, and then the Mi 11 Pro, and then of course the super ultra premium one that looks nothing like the other three is the Mi 11 Ultra, which we've seen in the past. Is it really kind of over? I'm not sure if it's something that I think a lot of people have had enough. There may be also other devices that are released specifically to like in the Asian market that we don't typically get to see. And that could also be the other factor that I'm not putting into this equation. But on our side, I mean, realistically, we have we have three devices that were released at the beginning of 2021, which is their typical lineup. The Lite, I think, was probably the new one that we haven't seen before, so that would maybe be the only thing. Last year we saw the Mi 10, Mi 10 Pro, and then the Ultra came out, but it never really made it everywhere. So some people did receive it in Europe, but they were still using the Chinese version. This time it's coming, so we'll have to see how they kind of continue the conversation there as well. But as far as Raul, as far as the heat, it definitely feels hot. You can feel it. But for me, gaming, I typically the question that you were asking is, you're saying that this camera area gets hot. You never typically touch this area. That's where your sensors are. You're always holding around it. So I'm not sure how people were sensing the temperatures from there, because this is typically an area that you steer away from, literally. Because if you're filming, you're taking pictures, you always hold your phone away from the sensors. So even if it does get warm to dissipate that heat, it doesn't affect us. For me, the heat that I was referring to was mostly in that same area on the opposite side of where my display is. Because when I was playing, I can start feeling a little bit of warmth on my left finger. Not on the right one, as that's probably mostly the temperature. Oh, sorry, the charger is in there. Let me see here if I missed anything else. Okay, Dominic wants to ask, I checked on ASUS Store UK a few days ago. They are selling the ROG Phone 3 now, which is very weird. That is interesting. Okay, so the ROG Phone 3 finally made it to the UK. It wasn't there. I know at least, if I'm not mistaken, I think Matt last year was having the hardest time trying to buy the ROG Phone 3. He bought it from somebody through Amazon from Paris, which ended up getting it imported for him. So maybe this is when they're starting to finally sell it there. I don't know if the 5 is there. The ROG Phone 3 is the same price as the ROG Phone 5 in the UK. Okay, that is very, like, why would you buy the ROG Phone 3 if the 5 is available? Unless it's a higher version of the 3, maybe because remember, they always release different versions of their phones. But that is a very weird situation. I hope they can correct that very soon. But I hope that anybody looking at their site wouldn't buy the 3, especially since it doesn't even have the headphone jack and the faster charging, a whole bunch of different things. I mean, not just one. Joe, so I haven't had any time to watch any YouTube. I'm brushing, I'm brushing Mi 11 Ultra Video TK. Yeah, no, I realize it's been one of those weeks. It's been a busy week for a lot of people, and I think I was just very excited to put that video, those two videos, the Arabic and the English side, very. I wanted to get people kind of just the impressions of what I was getting out of it, and honestly, from a camera standpoint, it has not disappointed. Like, seriously, the performance on the cameras on the back for, I want to say basically auto mode, if you're allowing the phone to do it's what they're intending to do. And I'm not saying that you should be buying a really expensive phone just to do auto. You are able to jump into pro mode. There is different modes in there, portrait mode, video mode, using the display. There's a whole bunch of things to do. But on it, just standard, if you want to take a picture, like you turn on the phone, swipe the camera, and go straight in to snap a pic, it actually does a really good job. That is really like one of the things, like the images that I shared on Twitter for everybody, were primarily, I mean, with a little bit of composition. Seriously, they're just going in there, tap and touch, focusing, reducing maybe a little bit of light. It overall is just basically using the default camera app on the standard app option. Portrait imagery, as you saw there with my son on that one, I think was also really nice. I was trying to frame the roller coaster right behind him. And it does actually subject separation very nicely. There's no banding, there's no fading pieces, there's no line right across the thing. It actually did a really good job. So very happy with that performance there. Rupak's asking here, so if Google brings its own watch and Samsung also switches to Wear OS, don't you think that it will end up seeing a huge improvement in Wear OS as an operating system? So there's a double-edged sword to this, right? Samsung is, as an entity, as a company, is always going to be basically pushing to try to promote their products, right? So Tizen as an operating system has a very robust ecosystem. Wear OS obviously has a much bigger ecosystem. It's been around. It's adapted to much more different pieces of hardware. I feel like definitely Wear OS will improve if they're able to contribute into the development. Keep in mind, they're not we haven't seen any announcement of Samsung co-developing Wear OS. They're going to be using Wear OS. So typically, if you think about it, that still is very much a Google improvement system. So Google needs to work at it. Google needs to improve the latency issues, not on all of the models, but mostly specifically the Bluetooth disconnect issues that a lot of devices still have, even when they're running Wear OS. Tizen doesn't have as many issues as that, even though they're using the same hardware for the most part. So my hope is that we see the improvements from both sides. I think if Samsung's able to basically start helping in the improvements, fixing some of those concerns, even if it's just on Samsung devices, Google can definitely learn from that. So we'll have to see. But I'm excited to see what Google has to offer, especially with 2021 hardware. I mean, I/O is in about a month, and we'll hopefully be hearing a lot more about this. So that is going to be a big push for us to be able to see what they have. Oh man, I think I skipped quite a few. Oh man, let me see here. Okay. I think jumped in there. Most smartphone manufacturers are using top spec cameras hardware just to keep up with Google. Just show how superior Google's software is. Would be interesting to see what Whitechapel SoC brings. So my hope is that again, the Whitechapel brings in, brings back the ability of actually having a neural core and getting the benefit of having basically a dedicated core for type of anytime you're doing manipulation to kind of video, so on. It's like an assisting core that most devices don't have. I think having full control of your device from the hardware design to the SoC, the same way Apple does it, is going to be a very big boost because they'll optimize their systems to run and to perform and to be consistent over and over for a longer time. And I feel like the biggest pick there that's going to be a beneficial thing for us, if you decide to buy a Pixel or go with the Pixel, it's going to be basically the longevity of the support. So Google can support it for as long as they want, as far as software security patch updates, operating system updates, and that's going to give you even more value for the money that you're spending. So there's a big conversation to be had once we start to see what the actual performance is going to be. How does it compare? Is it more considered to be entry level into the mid-range performance, so close to what the 7 series does, or is it going to be more trying to go for the 8 series type of performance and leveraging a neural core? So back to what we had with the Pixel line of devices, the Pixel 4 series, I think. Let me see here. The Legion, yes. Dominic Juan, I get you. Still, the Legion is interesting this year. So Lenovo releases a gaming phone with a very interesting approach to gaming, obviously with cooling and everything. And Zach from Jerry Rig Everything, he gave it the ROG Phone 5 approach. And essentially, it's anytime you put any kind of ports on the side of a phone where you're not having just a solid metal band where you're able to build a very good construction on it, it's going to cave, and it caves pretty bad. At the end of the day, I would probably say, whenever we look at a game, whenever we look at a video from Zach, we have to take it with an understanding of he's stress testing it. This is not obviously where people are going to get their phones and first thing they're going to do, put their fingers in the back and start pushing it. So although that phone kind of crumbled quite fast, like very fast, I can attest that the ROG phone device, the ROG phone structure is not really meant to be super rugged. Having a side port on the phone where the bands around it are so thin, they're almost paper thin, made out of metal, they're always going to cave in first. There's no question. Structurally, it's almost hard for them to build it very good without literally building an entirely very thick and very heavy beam going across the smartphone to keep the structure straight. And I don't think that that's going to happen because of the weight and, of course, the aesthetics of their smartphones, because batteries have to go somewhere. And the new ROG Phone 5 has 2 separate batteries. Short answer, I think it's I think the design looks great. The opportunity of being able to cool your device to this level with the Legion phone is definitely very nice. But I would take his video as entertainment and hopefully help us understand and appreciate and take care of our devices much, much better. I'm always Sharky 165. Always, guys. Team Pixel all the way. I truly am excited to see what the Pixel 5a is going to show, and hopefully we'll see that in about a month. And of course, we'll hopefully be able to see some of the new benefits that they're doing with the secondary sensor. But at the end of the day, realistically, everybody's trying in their own way to catch up to a certain approach of how Google does their processing, right? And it's post-processing. They're the king. They're still the king. I'll say this though: there's a lot of companies now that have done very good work with their post processing. OnePlus for sure, big improvements on their side for this year with the OnePlus 9 and 9 Pro, and of course what we've seen also with other companies. And Xiaomi is actually getting pretty close when it comes down to images. I still feel like skin tones may not necessarily be as good as the OnePlus 9. Like the OnePlus 9 Pro does a really good job of getting skin tones correctly when you're outdoors, you're indoors. Xiaomi does a good job of basically getting those colors. That basically feel like social media ready images are just very nice from directly from a Xiaomi device, and you're able to tame it a little bit. You know, kind of customize the experience there as well if you want to go in there. Dominic saying the RG Phone 5 is listed on the ASUS UK website, but it's not available in stock yet. And I think maybe that's what they're trying to do. They're getting ready to put out the 5, but they're not reducing the 3, which is over a year old now, technically, if we're just keeping track. And we'll have to see basically why they're. I mean, again, if somebody is buying an RG, they should hopefully be aware that there's a 5 this year. And if they do go to the UK website and see it there, maybe they'll wait a little bit before they pick it up. But if they do pick up the 3, I mean, nothing's wrong with it. And in some series, it may even outperform the 5. Mostly because of thermals, right? The 888 and the 865s obviously have a very different approach. 865 doesn't run as hot, but can still handle 90% of what you're able to do on the ROG Phone 5. So it's still a good conversation to be had. My only concern would be the lack of a headphone jack, and of course, just the overall experience. The headphone jack is actually very nice on the ROG Phone 5. Let me see here. I think I missed. Oh man, can you use it with Steam Link? David, hold on again. Let me see. Am I reading the question for me? Yeah, so you can definitely install Steam Link. You can install like GeForce Now. I'm assuming it's the Mi 11 Ultra, so that's not a different. There's no difference there as well. Here, so Javier is saying is I would trade in my S21 Ultra for the Xiaomi Mi 11 Ultra in a heartbeat. And honestly, one of those things what I said at the beginning of my video is, the S21 Ultra promised a lot, and they were building it as the improvement to everything else they've released ever before. And it's hard when you build up a mountain every single time you release a smartphone to a certain point. I'm not trying to harp on Samsung's PR approach. I'm just saying that that's typically what they do. When you go to their events and you see a whole bunch of things, they typically give you basically that everything they've made prior to that year was just not as good as this. And that's what we were expecting. And I did the same thing. I purchased it. I went in for the S21 Ultra. I even went in with the S21 Ultra 256 because I needed more storage. So that was part of the experience. And so going into it, that was some of the things. And then by the time I got the smartphone, I'm not saying the phone doesn't perform well. Obviously for images and videos and so on, there's a lot of things to be said about the S21 Ultra. It's a great phone. And it does have a lot of benefits into it. When I picked up the 11 Ultra, the Mi 11 Ultra, I really felt like there was at least a difference in approach. There is innovation in here. There's a push for better performance. And the ability of using the rear sensors, all 3 rear sensors for everything I want to do. If you want to go to do like an 8K video, 8K 24 frames on the S21 Ultra, you're limited to the primary sensor because that's the highest sensor. That's the one that's intended. Now, even though we have 2 secondary telephoto lenses, we can't use them there. On the Mi 11 Ultra, you can just literally pick what sensor you want to pick. You can turn on different options and so on, and it'll tell you right away which mode you're switching. But I can shoot 8K in ultra wide, I can shoot 8K in telephoto, and I can shoot 8K in standard focal length. That is a big difference. Having that display in the back, that is also a big difference. 67-watt charging, an improvement over what we've seen in the past. Again, those are the things that I want to see when I see the word Ultra. I want the best that you have, not necessarily a tailored experience from last year's Ultra, So those are the things. So I'm with you. I don't disagree with you. There are some things, though, I will probably say that the S21 does a little bit better still than the Mi 11 Ultra, and that's going to be on the front-facing camera experience. One thing that I don't know why to this day, but we need to start asking any of the OEMs, even the Chinese-based OEMs, to start pushing more than 1080p on front-facing camera experience. We can use 4K. There is no reason we can't use a 4K front-facing camera, 4K 60. They finally gave us 60 frames per second on the 1080p, which I feel like is a great opportunity. We also have portrait imagery, video, all of that stuff, typical things. But we need 4K, and I feel the S21 line of devices still does that better. We get 4K 60 all across from the front to the back. And the S21 Ultra has front-facing autofocus, which is still also a very good function. So I'll say this. as an entire package, when you're using it, the cameras on the front work perfect. Portrait mode takes great images. The exposure and everything else will work perfectly fine. But if you're putting like literally head and head and you have to kind of start counting different features, there are certain things that the S21 Ultra does best and still does better than the Mi 11 Ultra. But then there's so much more that the Mi 11 Ultra that does better than the S21 Ultra. Just out of the box, when you have a 5,000 milliampere battery, it's a large battery to start. Having the ability of charging it faster should be a plus. Having that charger included in the box is a plus. Having an adapter in the box that allows us to use a headphone jack is also a plus. I mean, it's not an expensive piece. This is seriously, this is not going to cut into profits to the level that I think Samsung is approaching it. But having to buy this and only capping us to 25 watt on a 2021 flagship that came from the year after their 2020 flagship, the Ultra, that supported 45 watt charging. Those are things that you have to kind of pay very much attention to, and I think the users are starting to notice it. It's not the exact same one-to-one, and I think that's where Xiaomi kind of benefited from it. The thermals, that's another conversation. I feel like there's going to be a lot more things that need to be coming out. The 888 is a chip that runs hot. There's just nothing we can do. We're not talking Snapdragon 810 hot, but it is hot when you're playing games for a long time, definitely. Kartrak TK, hey man, how you doing? What SoC promise? They didn't actually share any information as far as what processor's running it in, what runs the OnePlus Watch yet. But that's something. Hopefully, I mean, from the launch event, if we just followed anything else, they're promising 2 weeks worth of battery life. So that's something that obviously going to be very much power management heavy there. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Geeky Nassim is asking, hey TK. Literally don't know the full form of TK in your name. Sorry, it's Tarek. It's Tarek is the TK is Tarek basically. I just went the first and last letter from the first name. Been wondering about this for a long time. But please let me know how well are you during the second wave of COVID? So we haven't, at least in California, we haven't hit a second one yet. There's a lot of concerns. A lot of people are very are thinking about it, are basically very concerned about that in that sense. But if we just follow all the requirements, all the recommendations given to us as far as just the distancing and the masking, I feel like that's the biggest thing about reopening in California is that everything that's reopening that is theme park related is staying, they're adhering to these policies. Lines are longer because you have to stay apart. They're not running the full rides with everybody in them. So those are things to keep in mind. The other thing they also say is to make sure that you're always wearing your mask, always sanitized. There's sanitizer everywhere. So the overall approach, at least at this point, is they're cautiously optimistic. More people are getting their second doses, first doses. At least for us, I think in another week or so, they're going to open up requirement availability for everybody. So anybody that is, I think, 16 or older should be able to get it. So at least for that matter, that gets us into a situation where we'll have better support for that, and at least hopefully reduce the number of cases that are coming up. But thank you. I appreciate you for asking. And Tarek all the way. You can call me Tarek, or the spelling is Tarek, not Tariq. There's two different spellings of it, just for reference. Let me see here. Faisal Hanaf is asking, hello, I have a quick question. Is there any advantages of purchasing Mi 11 Lite over the Poco F3 when both of them have near the same prices, but the specs are pretty far apart? Okay, so it's hard to explain it, but let's just say this. Okay, so the Mi 11 Lite on both models, you're running a 732G or a 780G. So the 780 is a brand new mid-range processor. 732G is from 2020, very capable processor, both of them gaming specific, but both of them are 7 series. So 7 series are those mid-rangers that generally give you flagship experience between speed, performance, but you still get obviously some of the nicer, less power consumption. You're still able to push in higher refresh rate. Now, the F3 kind of jumps in with the Snapdragon 870. The 870 is literally the 865 plus with the next level up. So your experience there is more of an 8 series. So much more, I would say, faster processing, everything that you can expect, closer to what the 888 can give you at a lower price. So when you look at both of them and you're looking at the specifications and you're saying, okay, so the price point is very similar, understand that the 870 is going to be better than the 780 and the 732G. Now, do you prefer basically Poco's approach? I mean, they're both using obviously Xiaomi's MIUI, so it's not really very far. But Poco likes to do a little bit of customizations in their launchers. So if you like Poco's approach, or do you like just the standard Mi approach from Xiaomi? I think it's both going to be basically easy to pick from. I would probably push and say that the F3 would be a better performer for you, mostly because you're going with those type of that type of processor. The 870 is just going to run much better for you, thermally, performance-wise, and overall just longevity. It's a very good processor, and of course supports 5G as well. So hopefully that answers that question. Dominic's coming back in with there. I'm interested to see what Whitechapel brings, but Google phones seem to be not to be very reliable. So I'm not sure when you say reliable, Dominic. I'm not sure if you mean availability or do you mean actually performance. I can say this much. The last push update that we got on the Pixel 5 from Google definitely was a very GPU forward improvement level there. So they are working on improving the performance on the not on the Mi line, but on the Pixel devices. So over time, your Google's approach is always going to be the most minimalistic to Android. And what I mean by this is the least amount of customizations that basically slow down the system, where they've been able to run with with less amount of RAM and more cleaner experience. So that's the whole stock Android experience, right? But the thing that you want to keep in mind is you need to pick the right Pixel for what you need. I feel like last year was a different shift in approach. They weren't trying to go for the flagship. They went down specifically for the 7 series. And the 765 is a very good processor. We'll see what Chapel has to do. I feel like the approach to this needs to be improving what they had from last year, bring back the neural core, get better battery performance, and of course, overall optimizations with after Android 12. So we know that Android 12 overall, from the beginning, even with the developer preview, has had no issues. There's no hiccups, there's no problems, and it just literally keeps going and keeps going. So it's been working great. And we're down to like the second update on the second developer preview. And by Google I/O, we are going to be getting basically the beta. So the beta is coming out in less than a month. So people are going to be able to start testing this in more of a beta form as opposed to a developer preview. And typically the easy way to say this is you can actually opt into the beta online and get it as an OTA, as opposed to with the beta, with the developer preview, you have to unlock your bootloader and install it or sideload it during doing that process, because you are installing something that isn't essentially fully baked. Is that the best way to say it for developers? But it's making it better. So hopefully that helps. Davin Davis. Okay. So the reason why Google went with Samsung is because of their experience with doing custom cores. Remember, Samsung did the Mongoose GPUs. So no, I totally agree. I think Samsung is the right approach to go with to actually help build a special core or a special SoC, a system on the chip for Google. They create their own. Obviously, they have had experience in this market. Now, I'm not sure. Obviously, I mean, there's obviously MediaTek. There's other SoC manufacturers out there. But I think as an approach over time, with the adoption of multi-window or multi-screen, running two apps at the same time, if we all remember, that was a feature Samsung developed on their Note line of devices years before Google implemented it as part of Android. So that was a big difference there. Google learned from Samsung. There's a bigger history going on there. So I think it's the right decision. My concern always ends up being is that we're not bringing in some of the concerns that we had with the Exynos last two generations of the Exynos processor over to Whitechapel. Those are the things that I'm wondering. But again, we hope that a lot of the stuff could be worked out before the production, so that they're able to test out, and then of course use history as a good lesson to be able to improve things with it. Hopefully that kind of gets it there. The Pixel 5 is absolutely reliable. The last Joe, did you? I'm assuming you got the last update as well. Of course, Joe, the Pixel man. Matt Tyler's in the chat. Good morning, man. Sabaho, man. Hope you're doing well. Man, it's been a week. It's been a week, definitely, for sure. Here, so will tablets on Android improve having good allocation over the market, like the iPads? Why is there less consumption comparing to Apple's? So I feel like I understand the question that you're going with. So Android tablets haven't picked up as much as the iPads because for the most part, every single one of them was trying to be an iPad. Now, I can tell you this much: Samsung has gotten a lot better with their Tab S7s. So the S7 Plus, like the one I use here, I feel like this is actually a good comparison for me. This is a good tool for me that I would not basically think twice about using the iPad that I have. And the reason behind that is because the pen that it has, it works perfectly fine. It has the ability of using DeX on an external display or even DeX on itself. The ability of turning this into a laptop. There's a whole bunch of things being done. But unfortunately, this is not a typical experience of what we see from tablets that are running Android as an operating system. Most of the tablets that we see from Android are typically more entry level, very much just giving you a larger display than what you typically get on your smartphone, and nothing very focused heavy on Android. Google stopped developing Android version or the specific version of Android to run on tablets when they stopped selling their tablets. So what you're seeing there is an adaptation from manufacturers of using Android as an operating system and adapting them themselves. Samsungs have had many years to be able to provide you a better experience, but you obviously have to pay a little bit more on that for the premium price, which I feel like not everybody jumps on. They typically go for more the two, maybe 300, even less when it comes down to tablets, and the experience is very much parallel to that. Apple, although very different in their approach, even their entry level, the iPad Air, or any of their lower end model iPads, still perform very closely at a high level because they are able to get the performance right. Apple controls the hardware and the processing power and everything. So there's that big ecosystem that you find in there, which some people still appreciate. We also have a very heavy Apple-centric development support where people, companies and OEMs, or not OEM and developers, are primarily focusing on tablet users that are iPad users that we're not getting very much optimized apps on Android. So we need to get those things kind of coming out. So the short answer is let's just say this: Apple has a more optimized ecosystem to build around, where Android is you'll get one tablet from a company every once in a while, but it's not a consistent product. Like you don't see them releasing a specific tablet outside of Samsung every year specifically to compete with it. So that's just typically what it is. And I think we just need to kind of understand that. I would probably say use a smartphone that has a much bigger display. Let's say here, what we have with the OnePlus 9 Pro, or even the Mi 11 Ultra. And, I would say they're getting close to tablet size. I mean, most of them, like these two are 6.7 and 6.8 inches. I mean, 1 or 2 inches shorter of a 7-inch display, which is typically the small size tablets. So hopefully that answered that question for you. Yeah, Joe definitely did get the update. Oh, here, back with ER, for Samsung and Google to release a watch with Wear OS later this year, there has to be a major update coming from Wear OS. Absolutely. It has to be marked with some type of a major improvement overall. I think a lot of smartwatches are still waiting for the I was going to say the MR2 update for Wear OS, which I think, at least for me, my TicWatch still hasn't received that update. So I'm hoping, definitely more improvements, better improvements over battery life, and if nothing else, again, connectivity, consistent connectivity with smartphones, no disconnects, no miss issues in there. I love the fact that Wear OS still supports Google Assistant. I mean, with any time we get a smartwatch or any kind of ecosystem that doesn't support the assistant or doesn't support the option of adding something like that, those are things that you want to keep in mind. Like, is this something that you want to be able to use? So keep that in mind when you're looking at what Samsung has to bring into it. Samsung started with Android on their watches and went over to Tizen with their second watch, and now potentially coming back to Wear OS. Will they support that on their older generation smartwatches? Probably not. But again, hopefully we'll be able to see a big change there as well. Let me see here. In my opinion, the Pixel 4 XL 18 months later is still a beast. Yes, absolutely. ER, hands down. And I'm pretty sure Joe and everybody in the chat will agree with you very, very much. I mean, it's weird. Like, Whitechapel is really competing with the Pixel 4 more than it's competing with the Pixel 5 as a successor, as a true successor as a smartphone. Let me see here. Oh, Chrome OS 90. Okay, so my understanding, Chrome OS 90 is running on Android 11. Better app performance and scaling is coming. Google have up the have given up on tablets just to focus more resources on Chrome OS. Absolutely, yes. It was exactly the right time where things kind of shifted, where they realized, like, why work on a tablet version of Android while we already have an existing operating system that we can develop and push forward. Chromebooks have come quite a bit since that time. The incorporation of Android apps, building a better ecosystem, better app management, gesture support, multitasking, a lot of things that have been built into it. And I feel like we need at some point a marriage between Android and Chrome OS on a device. And I mean that more than having Android apps on a Chrome OS. I want basically a phone that launches with Android. You plug in that thing to a display and it turns Chrome OS on. That's the approach that I feel like we're missing. And it's like the hardware can do it. It's limited right now, but it's specifically because they don't want to do video output. But I feel like this is something like, seriously, if it has to be developed, that's truly the way to do it. I feel like that's the best way to do it because the hardware can run it. You can definitely run Chrome OS on an X80, on basically an Atom-based processor, and then still get that very similar experience to what we get with, let's say, not Chrome OS, but like DeX or anything like that. Our devices are very powerful. The 888, the 865, the 855 are all capable, and even 845 can still do that very, very nice job. I wasn't necessarily saying that it's a down feature. It's more heavy, shift focus, as you said, definitely. Oh, Matt, the Mi 11 Ultra definitely has my attention. Using the Pixel to take videos and pictures yesterday for my daughter's birthday. Okay, so basically makes it that the Pixel is still right. There's no question. Pixel is, you pick up, you take pictures, you know what you're getting. It's a consistent performer. It's a consistent shooter. Even with the Mi 11, though, I would probably say that you probably want to make sure that you're composing the images. You're doing, obviously, your due diligence to use the different sensors. But I would still say, literally, just stick with the back sensors. Nothing's wrong with the front one in the sense of general video chat and images, like, if you want to take a quick selfie. But I feel like with the front one, I need to work a little bit more at composition and light, because it typically does this. What we've seen with some of the smartphones with the front-facing sensor, if your background is way bright, so if you're sitting in a very HDR-like experience where the background is way overexposed and you end up being underexposed, it fixes it by bumping up the ISO, exposing you correctly, but then blowing out everything in the back. So what ends up happening behind that is you have a lot of wider images there. So you end up turning on HDR mode. There are things to be able to be done there, but I feel like Pixel, you just literally pick it up, take the picture, and it does all of that for you. So Pixel recognizes it, and I feel like Xiaomi, although with their, I would say their AI options that are built in, they work much better on the back-facing sensor. I mean, we went to a flower garden a couple of days ago, and it was just beautiful. Like, seriously, images are great. Actually, I'll try to post some of those images later on today. Hopefully, you guys will enjoy those as well. But yeah, no, definitely, Matt. I hope the girls had great time. I love the swag. Definitely, very nice there. The Mi 11 Ultra, does it have dual battery tech like the Oppo, the OnePlus 9 Pro? To my understanding, no. It's the 67-watt charging here is charging a single cell. It's not charging two cells. But I need to double check on that. The reason I'm mentioning this, in all of the material that I've seen, I have not seen them refer to their system as a dual battery charging. It does charge fast, but it's not as fast as a OnePlus 9. Let's just say this much. But it is definitely a lot faster than what we see with Samsung's basically 25-watt charging. So there's a big improvement in charging, but I'm not seeing this crazy speed charging the way we've seen it with, let's say, Oppo and OnePlus, which is literally about 30 minutes from 0 to 100%. So hopefully that helps there. Devin Davis, I'm too old school. I like my Android tablet hardware, but curious that Google is focusing more on Chrome OS instead. The Sony Z3 tablet compact was great. Yes, let me just close it there. I think Sony made great tablets, dude. The ability of using tablets that literally look like a massive Xperia was crazy good. The thin bezels, the display, the glass on glass, the overall just look of that tablet was crazy good. It is something to keep in mind. I mean, at the end of the day, when we're using larger form factor tablets, we need them to be a little bit more productive, especially when you're using them with hardware that is intended to basically run a PC, right? So I agree. One of the reasons why I like this S7 Plus is the ability of switching between the ecosystems and actually running DeX as the primary operating system, meaning I can actually run the desktop experience on the tablet as well as running it as Android, as well as running it as a separate display. It's those flexible options that you get where I feel like that's what we want from tablets a little bit more. Samsung's pushing it with the Tab S7 Plus. And again, Sony, as far as I remember, hasn't been making tablets, and I don't think there's any plans of those. We do have that Sony announcement day, which I just realized this morning. both Sony and TCL are having a thing on the 14th, which is next Wednesday, I think, Wednesday in the middle of the week. And so we're gonna hear a lot of announcements on Wednesday. Wednesday is going to be a massive, busy day announcing and some things from TCL, and of course, we're also going to see some stuff from Sony. And I'm really hoping that the new Xperia, the Mach 3, if they name it that way, will obviously push us a little bit further in the better optics, because Sony's approach is very different than some of the other manufacturers. They're focusing to try to give you better images by including better optics on the sensor, larger pixels, better pixels, as opposed to what you're using with some other, pixel binning a lot, as far as just getting the, 108 down to a 12 or a 16 megapixel image, basically pixel binning that we're getting there. So we'll have to see what Sony offers, but TCL is also coming in with some announcements as well. So we'll see how that goes. Yes, so ASUS did a good job with that, but ASUS still kind of crippled the front-facing experience. Whenever you flip the camera to the front-facing experience, although you're using the same sensor as when it is in the back, it still turns on front-facing mode, which disables 4K. Like, it goes back to 1080. I'm not sure if it's by this. I still to this day don't have a specific answer why 1080 is the max on the front. Samsung definitely pushes it. LG definitely did it with their V60 line. And of course, we've seen it with other manufacturers. I mean, even OnePlus put a 4K, I want to say 4K 60 frames per second on the Nord last year. So that was a big improvement there. But that was the biggest thing they wanted. They wanted to focus on the front-facing experience for that smartphone. But we should have that more often. I feel like it's a feature that when you put a 20 megapixel sensor in there, that should be able to provide us that experience. I should say use it to its fullest. But we'll have to see how that goes. We'll have to see also if when OnePlus starts using a new sensor for the front-facing camera. Let me see here. David Burns. David, is the main point TK ran into, man. Talk about their the canvas for a ride. Yes, no, definitely. Let me see here. Fan base. Oh, hey, Rolando's in the chat. Hey, man, hope you guys doing good. Let me see here. The benefit of Chrome OS over over Android OS is currently Chrome OS runs. Hold on, let me see here. So Chrome OS version 89 runs Android 9, which essentially is what we're seeing. When they move up to Chrome OS 9.8, we're going to jump to Android 11. Over 117 current Chromebooks will receive updates. So I'm interested to see how the improvements actually from the overall just standard usability ends up being. And do we actually get some of those improvements on some of the older Chromebooks, especially the ones that are running older hardware? I think our Chromebook, if I'm not mistaken, is still running an i5. I have my personally Pixelbook Go from last year is also the i5 model. So I want to see some improvements in fluidity and overall performance. So we'll have to see how that comes out very, very soon. But I think we've... Oh, okay. So one last one here from Dollar Lucino's asking, TK, in your opinion, if you aren't using a phone much, like 12 hours, say in a day, is it the best stuff? Shut off for battery or leave it on? So there's a couple things I would keep in mind. So obviously connectivity, making sure that you're connected, you're able to be reached. There's those functions that you keep the phone on for those specific reasons. Because if you shut it off, you won't be able to get reached, so nobody can call you and so on. If you're using the phone primarily for media and you're not using it as your primary phone call, so let's say you have a secondary phone, this is what you're using. Typically shutting it off is actually much better because you do save some battery. It still depreciates the battery ever so slightly. It's a much lower rate because the phone automatically does that anyways, even if you're using it or not. But definitely helps in battery longevity of the battery. But if you're expecting any calls or text, I definitely would leave it on. Keep in mind, how you use your smartphone will actually be affected by if it's on or off. But if you depend on content to be able to come through it, meaning messages, notifications, emails, anything like that, definitely, yeah, I would not turn it off. So I would recommend just keeping it on for whenever you're able to use it there. My Chromebook is old and it never got support for Android apps. Yeah, they didn't go back to all of the Chromebooks to support it. So mine is an Acer and it's at least I'm going to say, at least 3 years, maybe 4 years almost. And it did receive the Android update, the Android App Store or the Google Play Store support function, but it received it way late. Like I almost didn't think it was going to get it, and it did. So we'll have to see how that goes. Okay, back to watches. I like the way Chemi is thinking, because that's what I was trying to do. I was trying to shift over and then try to give you guys a quick, hold on, let me see here. I do have some notification. Okay, so no, it's not a phone. I wish it was a phone coming in, but my phone is blowing up with notifications because that's how phones do it. Okay, so let's go ahead and move some things here. So we're going to take a next. Oh wow, it's been an hour. Okay, time flies. So let's go ahead and switch over real quick to the OnePlus Watch. Let's say switch over up here. And so you guys have seen it. I've been wearing it. Sorry, that's just the Mi 11 box. I'm just going to have that a little bit off to the side. The box itself is very similar to what we've seen with other OnePlus watches or with other devices. And of course, the information, if I'm not mistaken here, let's just do this. You could see it right there. So product, again, it's IP65 rated. You are, from what they said, it's a midnight black color is the one I have. Charging input is going to be a 5 watt and 1 amp. That's going to be with the charger that you get in the box. And of course, OnePlus design. It's going to be available for about $150 very, very soon, be able to be picked up. So here is basically just the OnePlus technology, the naming, and all the information there. We have OnePlus on the side, OnePlus Watch, OnePlus, and that's it. And then the band on the back. Now let's see if we can do this without, okay, here we are. I thought we were going to have some product issues there. Okay, so opening it up, not much. Everything else is open here on the back. Let's go ahead and put this aside. Don't need a keyboard in the middle of this conversation. So here's the watch. Overall, sorry, Chemi, let me go ahead and just put let's take that away. So the aesthetics overall, it does have, it comes with its own band. I've been using it. Obviously, you can kind of see here some of my my arm thing. The band is easily removed, very easy to put on, very easy to remove. And actually, it's one of their nicer bands. I like the band that they support here. So let's go ahead and make sure it's in there. Fits very nicely. The pin, the connector that we have in here, let me just go ahead and open it up. So nothing much here. There's nothing in there as well. We have some typical material, as we typically have. So some information, never settle, both. Let me see. Oh, okay. So there's multiple languages. I think that's what this is. Yeah. So essentially, oh, here. So we have the safety and warranty and the let's get started and nothing else in there. And of course, let's see if we can get this guy out. Here we are. It is a USB style charger. Oh, I see. Let's see. Can we do this? And here we are. So USB-A charger plugs into almost anything that you want. And of course, the OnePlus Charger has the word OnePlus on it. Let's go ahead and bring this up. And you can see it right there. It is magnetic, so you can definitely see the watch will magnetically clamp to this. And it has a soft material on the back. So when you're putting it on the table, this is not going to scratch anything. Although, take that back. It's magnetic on both sides. So when you're, what I really like about this, a lot of companies that make smartwatches, they do a really nice thing on them is the ability of actually allowing the back of the watch itself or the back of the charger to be magnetic. And what I mean is you plug this into, let's say, a power bank or even a hub that's sitting behind the monitor or something like that for better wire management. When you're done with this, you literally just put it under the table and magnetically connect it to the leg of one of the tables that you're on. And it helps to keep the charger away so you don't have to worry about it. But from a sense of what it does, you can definitely see it right there. Here you go. It clamps it, works really nicely, and it is very much going to be the way we charge it. So overall, best performance as far as it comes there. Let's switch over. And I think that was it. The box itself doesn't have a lot. This just says basically designed by OnePlus. You can kind of see it right there. On the left, OnePlus Watch. There's only one size. There is going to be multiple versions of the OnePlus Watch. So if I'm not mistaken, there's going to be that special edition one. This is not it. This is the regular edition one. The special edition one, I think, was going to be available later, if I remember the announcement correctly. But other than that, oh, sorry, we'll put that in here. We'll put that in here, and then we'll fix that later. So we'll put that aside. And so, again, charger works pretty much the way you expected. Let's go ahead and turn it on. Okay, give it a second. You see the OnePlus logo come up right there. And I don't know if I'm able to kind of show this to you guys. Well, hopefully I can show it. So you can kind of see it. The word OnePlus is very much on the top button there. The bottom button doesn't have any wording on it, but the top button has the word OnePlus on it. And as far as the actual watch itself, you notice right there, it's very simple, very easy, very large. So let's go ahead and put it off. And so this is my T-Rex. This is the Amazfit T-Rex. It's a larger watch, but the bezels on this obviously a lot bigger. This one, very easy, just fits. And for me, it actually fits very nicely. So we can just put it down. You were able to basically put the strap in once, clamp it. So get the fit that you want. So you have the fit right there, and then you just tuck it in ever so nicely under. So it fits very clean, very easy. And it works as a double security option so that you don't have a way of actually, it has to unhook from here first, then here for it to fall off your wrist. And then when you have it on, you just basically bring it up and it works perfectly. Let me see if I can, here we are. Let's see. Okay, so we're starting it up the option there. So from aesthetics, I think overall it looks very nice, and it does have obviously the tilt to wake, very good. You have the step counter, the ability of basically checking your information. It does sync with an app directly on your phone. There is options and other things that you can do on the phone, obviously, to be able to customize it. And I think overall, for initial impressions of this, actually, definitely, I like the aesthetics. I like the look of the watch. I like the fact that it obviously is a larger size watch, that it's not a smaller form factor. I've seen other watches on the market that do typically will end up doing that, where they kind of get us into a smaller version. See, notifications, always notifications. I got to put the watch back in. So I'm finishing my review on the Amazfit. Hopefully the T-Rex should be coming out hopefully on Monday, maybe Tuesday at the latest. And then, of course, I'm going to be working on the Oneplus watch as well for you guys. I know a lot of people like it. And for reference, the case that we have here, this case is actually a Oneplus original case. That's on their website, their robot case. Oh, sorry, put it back. Come on, here we go. Very nice, very much futuristic, and it matches with the Hasselblad silver color on the phone that I got there. Okay, yeah. If you search the web, I think they have a list of already all the Chromebooks getting the update. Okay, that's good. Okay, thank you, ER. Sorry. Let me see what we have here. Electric watches. I'm not sure, Marius. I'm not sure what you mean by that one. Time flies when you're having fun. You know, every single time we have a live stream, man. Every single time. And on Wednesday, I don't know if you guys had a chance to catch it. I had another live stream or another collaboration with Sony and video makers this time. This was actually a different organization. It wasn't on Sony's own live stream like the B Alpha event, but video makers has a live stream on obviously live streaming. And Sony invited me to be part of the show, so I was very happy to be able to share with them, and that's why we had the Xperia Pro with us. And I really found it very nice, like the overall experience for what we got from that show. And even though it was an hour show, it truly felt like 5 minutes. Like I was managing my time to a very hard T. Like it's like if I was I didn't want to cover too much. I didn't want to talk too much because I didn't want to jump over the Q&A sessions. I didn't want to jump over when the gentleman from Sony was coming back. So I wanted to get everything kind of like working in that order. And it felt like a big challenge there. So very nice. Let me see. Oh, George is jumping back to Davin here. No solar panel. No solar panel information at all. Currently using the Mi Band 5. Yes. So Xiaomi also announced the Mi Band 6, which I don't have access to yet, but I'm hoping at some point I will. And I've never used Android-based watches, so my eyes are more of on the Pixel Watch. So we'll have to see. Yeah, no, definitely. I think the Pixel Watch has a lot of things to offer, or at least a lot of expectations to meet, because it's the watch that comes from the company that makes, or that basically is the same company that releases the software updates for the watch. So we would expect that the watch would have the best experience when it comes down to performance. And I think that's why the expectations are a little bit higher. Let me see here. Mechanical automatic watches rule. Fight me, Gary. There is a thing to be said about timepieces, and of course, mechanical watches will always outlive, I guess, in too many ways, smartwatches because of the fact that they're just sheerly mechanical. You can wind them, you can use them. But I feel like we want to be able to see a nice combination or somewhat of a middle line. I mean, we're going with either full-blown smartwatches to full-blown mechanical. We need better options in the middle where it's a mechanical watch with some smart options. We've seen a few of them, but they fell a little bit short as far as what you can do with them. I think a smartwatch needs to give like features like notifications, health tracking, and so on. But you should be able to still see that information on the watch. And when we get that combination, we lose those. So hopefully we'll see something new. Um, I recently ordered the GT2 Pro watch from Huawei, and I'm hoping it'll be a good watch. Have you tried it? I haven't tried the GT2 Pro, but I've used the Huawei Watch 2, and seriously, very nice watch. The design is very good. Battery life was a very long and very. I think overall that was the biggest surprise that I had. How long the battery lasted. But it does have some things that I'm hoping that hopefully by the time you get the GT2 Pro, they've improved the notification function at least to support more applications, because that was one of my things with the Huawei watch. That we would get so much notifications, and a certain number of those notifications just show up as app. Like it doesn't say what it is, and it doesn't have the right icon, and everything looks the same. So if you're looking at the watch, you get a notification. Typically, the first thing you do is you want to see what app is providing that notification. If it's important, if it's not. If it's just the weather, I see weather, I turn around and I can move forward. But if I see that it's, let's say, coming from Instagram messages, if it's coming from email or whatever, then I want to pay attention to it. And I felt like Huawei watches weren't able to do all of that. I felt like it was more of a fitness watch in a smartwatch body than it was smartwatch in a smartwatch body, if that makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense. Oops, I think I jumped like 1,000 messages there. Let me see here. More smartwatches. Okay, so most smartwatches are 50 to 54 millimeters on the bezel. They're like I said, depending on the watch and the maker, you are going to be able to get different options. And mechanicals can get actually very big. And so it depends on the design that you're going for. What kind of battery life are you expecting? So OnePlus Watch is advertising 2 weeks of battery life. I haven't been able to actually get my full testing on it yet. I've had it for literally a couple of days, so I really can't attest to that level yet. Hopefully, by the time my review goes up, I'll be able to give you guys a good understanding as how is the battery performance and so on, and how are things going on. At this point, it's one of those. I would probably say it's a very acceptable time when you say 2 weeks now, because we've seen so many other watches on the market do this. So OnePlus is definitely trying to give you more of the longer range of battery when it comes to experience. But again, hopefully I'll be able to cover all of that for you guys in the review as well. Oops, sorry, Dominic. No, wait, did I miss it? Here, Davin Davis had this one. TK, didn't Google try this before with the LG watch style? I think I'm trying to remember the LG. I want to say they did, but I don't remember how well the LG watches did. I think LG did have a few watches released over the years, but again, Wear OS as an operating system is just one of those. I personally appreciate it. I like what Wear OS does, but I feel like any smartwatch that comes out with Wear OS needs to have a minimum of 1 gig of RAM. TicWatch has learned over the years to provide us that better experience. The 1 gig of RAM absolutely kicks, and marry that with the new Wear 4100 SoC from Qualcomm, then you're going to be getting a very good experience. But unfortunately, not every smartwatch that comes out with those specifications, and there are quite a few options on the market right now that I feel like, again, are not true smartwatches to what you think of a smartwatch. You have to understand what you're looking for. So longer battery life is a big plus. I'm hoping Samsung and Google can provide that to us and still keep the Wear OS functionality that we're looking for. Hopefully that makes sense there. Oh, wait, hold on a second. Dominic saying, Aditya, it's ridiculous. They're charging €1,000 for the V60. Whoa, okay, that is a very high price. I would probably say I've seen it on Swappa for a lot less. Obviously, it's used. I did check T-Mobile's website this morning, and you know what? Surprisingly enough, they're still selling it for full retail price. I mean, LG exiting the business of producing more content doesn't mean that older generation smartphones are not going to be still valued. Keep in mind that carriers, if you're buying it from a carrier, the carriers committed to the original price. They didn't commit to a lower price at a different time. They're no longer making these. So as time goes on, the price will go down. I don't think it's an instantaneous. The moment the announcement came out on Monday, then you see slashing the pricing everywhere. LG announced on Wednesday, I think, or Thursday, they're still going to support software. Android 11 is being currently pushed to the LG Velvet in the US. So they're not totally out of the software side. They're still going on. So their devices will still get some love for quite some time. It's just that we're not going to see any new devices in 2021, at least not in the current time under the current ecosystem that was built in by LG. Okay, let me see here. Samsung Galaxy is a Samsung. Okay, so here Abdulaziz is asking an interesting question. So he's asking it in Arabic, so I'll answer it in both English and Arabic. But I'll answer it in English first. Abdulaziz, just stay with me. أعطيني بس دقيقة حقلب بالإنجليزي أول شيء. So yes, the Galaxy Watch that I've used with Samsung is very nice. Tizen OS works very well. Battery life was consistent, a solid 4 days worth of battery life on the Galaxy Watch. Large frame, we had the turnstile bezel. There's a lot of things that I liked about the Galaxy Watch. And then when we move over to the active line of watches, or even the Galaxy Watch 3, we have a lot of those things. I mean, Samsung learned and fine-tuned the experience on the Galaxy Watch over years. It works great, and I would recommend it for anybody looking for a smartwatch, especially if you're using a Samsung device. But it works with anything outside of Samsung, so you can use it with Android, iOS, and of course, it works with any other Android device. So just real quick for Abdulaziz, just to kind of answer him in the question. الساعة ما في مثلها، في كتير منيحة، عنا كل المعلومات ترجع عليها منيح، البطارية بتضاين لنا تقريبا 4 أيام، وما في مثلها، بتمشي كتير منيح مع حتى لما نستعمل الأندرويد، مع الآبل، مع التليفونات الثانية الموجودة بالسوق. الشغله الوحيده اللي بقولها انه احسن شيء بتشتغل هي مع تليفونات سامسونج، هذه الشغله اهم شيء. اذا عم تستعمل تليفون ثاني في كم شغله ما بتمشي مزبوط نفس الوقت، بس فيك تستعملها لتدفع. يو كان يوز NFC لتستعمل بيمنت منها اذا بتدفع من الساعه تاعتك. وعندهم خاصه مع الجالكسي واتش 3 هلا اللي نزلوها كتير كتير منيح، البطاريه بتضاين على القليله مثل ما بقول لك 4 ايام، وعم تستعمل كل الاوبشنات الموجوده عليها للساعه. So hopefully that gets it there. Legend Op, where are you from? A little bit of background. Born and raised in Lebanon, speak Arabic, and been living here for a long time. So, but I live in the US, so maybe that helps. Hopefully that helps a little bit more. And I also speak French, but I don't typically get a lot of French questions. Davin is jumping back in there. TK, I loved Android Wear when then Google fell. Okay, so I loved Android Wear, but then Google fell asleep when they shifted it to Wear OS. Even with Mobvoi, I still haven't seen anything to pull me back. So I probably would say, if you haven't checked Mobvoi since the Pro of last year, the TicWatch Pro 2020. And obviously the 2021 with the new Wear OS 4100, I really think that Mobvoi has shifted the approach to this. Mobvoi's approach is, I feel like, the smartest one on the market to date when it comes to Wear OS smartwatches. And the benefit there is that dual display tech, the ability of using a low power black and white, basically like an e-ink almost a display on the top, where your watch sits in most of the time, saves you so much power, and you're able to extend the battery. And then you're also able to push it even further if you just want to use that face and not even worry about the smart functionality for all of them, at least other than the step counter, I think. You're able to push it all the way close to almost a month. Like the battery life can go crazy long. So those are things that I feel like Mobvoi is doing well. But I think not every smartwatch is going to come out with that with that specific SoC, and not every manufacturer is putting in 1 gig. I feel like when they went to 1 gig, even with the 3100 from last year, or even the 2400 from before when they were using it, the moment they put more RAM, the OS ran better. Transitioning between pages, opening up apps, just using the assistant, all of those things kind of worked a lot better. It's hard to pull somebody back when you're comfortable where you are, and that I think typically would say is this. Don't change for the sake of change. Change because you need something that your current situation or your current setup doesn't give you. That's when we want to change. Because when you change for the sake of just changing because of something else, you're typically making a compromise. But if you're changing for a reason, you're typically moving towards an improvement into your experience, into your life. And that's what the new piece of hardware is going to provide you. So always use that. And I'm not trying to make it sound like a mantra, but change because you need to change. Don't change because you have to. Sometimes you have to, I'll say that much, when things kind of go obsolete, but at the end of the day, it's one of those things. Let me see here. Davin, I like that one. Okay, I think I may have missed a comment there. Let me see here. Okay, can everyone watching stream please like please let's follow Aditya's comment, please. If you guys can, I would really appreciate it. If everybody in the stream can please like it, it helps the video and the channel perform better. Absolutely, algorithms are Google's bread and butter, and it does definitely help the channel as well. Vince, thank you very, very much. I'm actually very much thankful for everybody in the chat today. We're definitely kicking it hard with everybody here. Kicking in questions and some, of course. Gary the fireman. I say the word, I speak French, and he throws in some offers, man. Gary, I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't even know if I can say this on the live stream. It is empty. No. I'm not going to say that. So Oliver saying, the first time I've ever heard you switch like that. Damn, makes me long for the days when I know Russian. It's very, it's instinctive. If there's something that I appreciated about growing up in Lebanon, was that as a country, Lebanon went through the First and Second World War. Just as history, a little bit of background. Lebanon was colonized by both the French and the British at some point in time, not at the same time. Only, we can only handle a few guests at the same time. But all joking aside, that influenced the education system that we have in Lebanon. So growing up in Lebanon as a just a normal going school, you are raised with both English, French, and Arabic as a language. So you learn those by the time you go through high school, middle school, or graduate. And typically you can actually also opt in for other additional languages like Italian, Spanish, and so on. So typically you learn British English and French, Parisian French, because there's also Canadian French. And of course, you are also able to learn other languages. So I grew up with those languages, so that's the reason why I kind of spoke it. It took me a few years when I first moved to the US because I needed to learn the American English accent, which is very different than the British. But then once I shifted into that, and of course, since I speak Arabic all the time, and if you guys probably haven't noticed, or if you are not familiar with it, I have both an English and an Arabic channel. So there's TK Bay and then there's Tariq Bay. So I produce content on both of them on a weekly basis. So it helps me stay connected and, of course, connect with the Arabic language. So yeah, definitely very easy. And switching languages becomes like on the dot. You don't even think about it. It just jump back and forth between the two. But typically, I found more and more lately, though, a lot of my fans on the Arabic channel, they were jumping on my English channel, especially on the live stream on Saturday, because I don't have an Arabic channel live stream weekly yet, which I'm thinking I may do, but I want to think about a little bit more of the timing and when that would be possible a little bit more. David, yeah. So TK calling colonizers guest. That's a gracious way of putting it. When you don't have an option, and yeah, it was just there. It's just part of like I didn't grow up during those times. So for me, I got the end part of it. So that's generally why I refer to them like that. So I wasn't part of it. I didn't really go through that conversation. But I can tell you that to this day, Lebanon as a country is considered to be a pays francophone, which means essentially is a French attaché to Paris. There's a very big, heavy French influence in Lebanon. And almost 90%, I would say, people that have gone to school know French and English, and they know them quite well. Not just well to like, okay, I took Spanish 1 year in high school kind of thing, or 1 semester kind of thing. It literally, like, they know it enough to converse with you. So it is very much a very interesting approach to things in the past. Ooh, that's a good question. Dareem is jumping in with the hard-hitting questions. OnePlus Watch versus the OnePlus Oppo Watch. So Oppo Watch came out last year. There's 2 versions of it. The one I still have mine actually, which is really, really nice. And I definitely want to focus on those. Yeah, between the 2. If there's anything to be said, at least right now, the design on the OnePlus Watch is closer to what we typically think of, the circular design, where I felt like the Oppo Watch is very much geared towards what the Apple Watch was doing, with more of an Android-esque aesthetic to it. Both watches, obviously, the Apple Watch ecosystem is a very heavy Apple specific. The OnePlus Watch and Oppo watches are obviously trying to focus more for Android users, but I feel like they should. I don't actually know if OnePlus is going to support iOS. I know at least, so I can't really speak too much on that part. Short answer, once the review for the OnePlus Watch comes out, I'll definitely be focusing on doing a video on both the Oppo Watch and the OnePlus Watch, because I feel like that it's still a decent experience. Both are smartwatches that are from companies that are under the BBK umbrella, but we'll hopefully be able to see what they offer us there as well. Aditya and Dominic, thanks, man. Appreciate it. Sabaho. Ranesh, hey, man. Sabaho, man. Jermaine is in the chat. Good morning. Okay, here's a good system. We use to English and Dutch, and are a must, but French and German are often a part of it as well. I know six languages, not really though. Could have tried Mandarin as well. Actually, it's surprisingly Germany, that part of the world, when you go to like Germany, Switzerland, a little bit northern France, closer to Germany, you get a little bit different languages and different dialects. Like I know when I went to Switzerland, there's the Dutch speaking, there's the Swiss speaking, and there's the German, and then there's the French speaking. So I've done well in Switzerland. Like even just going around, most people speak at least two to three languages, and I love that. Um, Languages are an amazing way to open doors, and I mean this because you are truly experiencing another culture when you go to other places, when you go to countries and so on, and you only speak your language, or let's say you speak English, um, mostly because of the international part, but you're truly experiencing it to that level, really, to truly understand things, how go in the background. When you know the language, when you know a little bit the history, the mannerism, the traditions and stuff like that, it helps understand and appreciate cultures a little bit more when you go in there. Now, I'm not saying go learn the language anytime you want to go travel anywhere, but I mean to say is because I was obviously able to learn those languages growing up, I was more appreciative of the French culture when I lived I for a short amount of time. And of course, when I visit Germany, UK, Switzerland, Geneva, anywhere, or even when I go to Spain, I appreciate the culture even more because I understand some of their language, and I do speak some Spanish as well. That's mostly because of living in California. So yes, Jermaine, I am with you. Languages are amazing, as always. Let me see here. I think we're getting. Let me see here. I think people are starting answering. Um, Oh, Oliver's in this. So I'm in a Germany trip right now on a work trip, and I met five people that can converse that converse with me. Depends on the part. So depends on where you are in Germany. You are going to be in parts of the country that does not speak English, and I also learned that one very quickly from my few visits that I've been, specifically in Berlin, in Munich. In touristy areas, there's not going to be a problem, but if you go, let's say, to a town. Like Munich is also a big example of that. It's big enough that there is parts of it that are tourist area specific. Like if you're going to convention centers and so on, you should be able to be fine there. But you are going to be hitting some stores, local stores that don't speak a single word of English. And I don't think they want to. That's the other thing. I think it's a pride in culture and language. So those are times that, a good translator can help. And of course, or try to learn at least some conversational German, which also helps. And German is not as hard as people think it is, but it definitely is. Sounds harder than English when you're speaking it. Sharky 165 saying, TK Aditya Dominic. So would it be hard for a slight Hebrew speak to learn Arabic moderately, let alone fluently? It's hard for me to tell since I don't speak Hebrew, but I can tell you, at least from a third person's perspective, because it was told to me many times, is that Hebrew and Arabic sound very close to each other from a third person, not from mine, because I understand half of it. So it's hard to tell, but I would imagine that we have enough of the harder letters in Arabic. If you're able to say them in Hebrew, and obviously when you speak in Hebrew, that I would imagine them wouldn't be as hard for you to enunciate them, because that's the hardest thing for me about trying to learn Chinese. It's the certain letters, especially Cantonese, which has different tonal changes, which mean totally different things. So culture and languages are always a thing that I would say is, if you're interested enough and you have the time, it's definitely worth the while. Always worthwhile. Uh, yeah. So Aditya is with there as well. Understanding the local language is really beautiful. I totally agree. It helped me understand the local culture much better, of course. And also, I feel like people are a little bit more frank when they're talking to you in their native language than when they speak to you in a foreign language, because there's that limitation of vocabulary. They may not be 100% fluent in English, and we typically see that sometimes, and it does change the conversations. Like the word "lost in translation" is a big factor in that conversation. Uh, Always. Uh, Olive. Okay, this Karlsruhe. Yeah, that one's a tough one to say. I don't know how to say that one. In Germany, a lot of people refuse to speak English, though, which is true. Worked at a gas station for a lot of German truckers. They often refuse, but then, but knew it. It's a very big pride in language, and like I said, it helps understand and appreciate a little bit more. But In my travels to Germany, I've been to places where it was like small towns where literally nobody spoke a word of English, and Google Translate was literally my lifesaver because I learned for the first time that mooncake is not what I thought it was. Google's listening always. No, so apparently, a poppy seed cake in Germany, what they refer to as a moon cake, is not what you think it is. It obviously is poppy seed. So the translation from English to German for poppy seed to moon, didn't realize it till I turned in the translator, and I'm like, oh, this is poppy seed. I'm like, what is moon? I'm like, I don't know what it is. I'm learning Dothraki. Gary the fireman getting ready for what is it called? The next season of Game of Thrones is he's getting up there. Dothraki to speak to Khaleesi. Gary and Khaleesi. I guess we're going to see if will Khaleesi resurrect. I don't know. We'll have to see if they're able to bring Khaleesi, the mother of dragon. Always. And in the UK, it's amazing too. There's so many cultures as well. I love the I want to say the smorgasbord of everybody in the UK. When you go to places and different places to eat, you see so many cultures and so many people, which is always good. Golan Lavi says shalom from Israel. Welcome. And yes, Muslim, alhamdulillah. Speaking of which, Ramadan starts in 2 days or 3 days. I forget. Starting in a few more days. And what I mean by that is, what I mean essentially is that in a couple of days or so, obviously Ramadan starts, as you guys know, typically every year, so we're going to start fasting and so on. So you may not see me drinking any water in the next few shows, or at least even, and also the show with Juan Carlos on Thursdays. I want to talk a little bit to maybe we may be moving it a little bit earlier, just to accommodate the timing a little bit, because I can't stay up till 11 or close to midnight every time we have the show, at least for us, because timing for us is a little bit different here. Man, always. Long line and accent is its own monster, as is in the Brooklyn accent. You got to speak with the Brooklyn accent, right? Like right there. You got to emphasize the there, water, all of those things. You got to learn how to do dialects. And I feel like Arabic people, or at least the Lebanese people, can do dialects very well. I love dialects. ER is just saying, just as a heads up, with all the Ramadan starting Tuesday, Wednesdays, it will most likely be missing a lot of the content over the coming months, as I will be busy with the schedule and will be hectic. Just as a heads up. No, it does change a little bit of things, at least for a lot of us, but at least for me, I end up having to wake up a lot earlier in the morning than I typically do, and it does tend to kind of wear me out at the end of the day. So there's shift in approach and a little bit during the time, but the Saturday morning show I think typically doesn't usually have any issues. And it's more on with at night, because I have to wake up so early. I can't stay up so late. That's the kind of and it's not like I can skip a day. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see how it goes, and I'm very very excited to see how things go. Hey, Greg is in the chat, man. Good morning. So. What I would probably say, I think at the heaviest part, realistically, so let's just say this: you're going to want to wait for the OnePlus Watch review. There's a lot of good things going on. There's a lot of things that I think OnePlus is trying to do well. I can't really again give any main opinions on it yet. It's still just literally too early. I haven't had it that long, but I've also been heavily focusing on the Mi 11 Ultra. I will say this much: I took it in the pool and it survived as expected. I'm debating, actually. Maybe you guys can let me know in the comments. Would you think a video about? And if you guys probably don't remember them, it depends on how long you guys have been following the channel. I used to do videos with Omar, where whenever a phone comes out, like a brand new flagship and so on, and it's typically considered to be like, Samsung, OnePlus, and so on, I would do a pool test. We would go into pool and we would play a fun, obviously not deep diving, submarine level stuff. But just taking the phone and having fun around the pool. I say, you're with the kids, with the family, you want to be able to jump in the water, take some pictures, some videos, and so on, things like that. And I did shoot the content for it, and I'm actually a little bit debating if I want to release that video, or is it something that people would find helpful. So if you guys can let me know if you think that there would be something that you guys would like to check out. If you want to exactly know what it is, if you just Google TK Bay waterproof test or water test or pool test, you'll find a whole bunch of my videos. Again, I still get comments to this day about people asking about them. Although I will say this much. any device that advertises an IP68 certification, a certain resistance to water submersion up to 30 minutes, I think it's at 1 meter up to 30 minutes for certain devices. You want to keep a couple of things in mind. Make sure your device is absolutely free of any damage. And I'm talking about even accidental dropping on the floor, any kind of cracks, dings, or anything on the phone that could compromise the structural integrity of your phone. That happens, the IP rating to a certain point kind of starts degrading from what you originally expected. So if it was a 10, when you take it out of the box, brand new from the manufacturer, it reduces that structural integrity, and getting in the pool and doing things like that without any protection could potentially damage your phone. So do not try that. Do not, the videos are not intended to tell people go have fun in the pool kind of thing. But it's more so of if you happen to have a splash on it, if you happen to get in there and somebody, let's say, drops you in the pool, you get out of the pool, the phone's going to survive. Take it out, get the water out, you're fine. It's more so to that approach. But it's also kind of for Omar and I to have a little bit of fun. Things are starting to open up again. We've been locked up for so long, and it's nice to actually kind of check it out. But would love to actually hear what you guys think about those as well. Dominic Wanda, everybody in there. Oh man, Greg. Hey, Greg is in there as well. Oh, Aditya, always. Thank you, man. Thank you very, very much. Take care of yourself, buddy, during Ramadan. Do not burn yourself. We appreciate it, and want to watch a very healthy. I appreciate it, man. It's Ramadan surprisingly it has a very nice calming effect. When you focus heavily on trying to basically maintain your core, your energy during the day, and you shift away from overeating and a whole bunch of different things, it's just such a nice calming effect during that month. So it is literally a couple of days away, either Monday or Tuesday. So we're almost there. If I trust Google Calendar, it says Tuesday, but typically it usually is a day before. So we'll have to see. But thank you very much for the super chat as well, man. Always appreciated. Oh man. Let me see if I'm missing anything else, Greg. Okay, so Greg's quick question is: Can you do a cam test between the Pixel 4 XL and the Mi 11 Ultra TK? I think I should basically be able to do it. I think I still have to just find my Pixel 4 XL. I haven't used that one for some time. If you guys remember, I have the orange one, which definitely one of my favorite colors. It definitely will be interesting to see how the performance is for the Pixel 4 XL, which I think you still use, but I think you modded it, right, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, definitely. Davin says, I wouldn't mind seeing a pool test video from time to time. Yeah, just a little dip in the water. Yeah, no, like I said, the content is there. And we definitely did. I did get a chance to actually play with it, and it was a weird situation where it was literally just Omar and I in the pool. Typically, there's always somebody there, but that time we were there, it was nice. So hopefully I'll put that together also, and we'll see. Maybe I'll release that tomorrow morning, because like I said, the content's literally on the phone. A little bit of a tip on this, I probably would say overall everything works perfectly fine. Obviously the phone survived and it works perfectly nice. The only thing I would probably say, just remember to clear out the water, and there actually is a built-in feature in the phone that actually helps it to emit a sound from the speakers to clear the water out of the speakers. So it actually looks like even Xiaomi has thought about that one as well. So we'll see there. Dominic Wan saying, oh, this is a good one. Okay, so the difference between different Chinese regions have different languages as well, just like Swedish and German. You can understand one. And completely not to understand the other one. That is typical, and even in Arabic languages, we also have. I would probably say like native dialects change very differently. Like you'll have Arabic countries countries that are considered to be Arab countries, like even the Northern African side. If you go just all the way from Algeria, Tunisia, and so on, if you listen to their normal daily conversation, a person from Lebanon may not be able to understand the full conversation. They use similar words, but they use them in very different expressions. And I'll say that even just as a simple expression from Lebanon to Egypt, which are very close to each other. The word for yogurt in Lebanon is a very different word to yogurt in Egypt. And you could literally be buying the wrong product when you ask for the other word. So understanding colloquialism, understanding dialects, and the beauty obviously is all the countries speak, I think, very similar formal Arabic, which helps us. But typically, like when we speak to each other, we always have to kind of defer and try to be a little bit more cautious with the words that we use. We don't use very slang heavy conversations. But yeah, I would imagine even in Chinese and our other cultures as well. Aditya saying, my Tunisian and Saudi Arabian friends actually prefer talking in English over Arabic. It does. It gets even different also when you go down to Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Tunisia. It changes. The dialects are very different. Like a few buddies of mine. What's it called? Ahmed, Andrew Basha, and even with the Khalifa, they typically, obviously they speak their own dialect, but when we speak to each other, we speak very close to. I almost want to say, so in the Arabic countries, the way we have, how America is considered to be the Hollywood of the movies, where all the movies are generally made here, and almost movies in English are generally made in English dialect or American dialect. In Arab countries, Egypt is the Hollywood of the Middle East. So if you think of it that way, most people tend to kind of default closer to the Egyptian accent, mostly because it's closer to everybody's understanding. So it makes it easier to communicate. So we'll see how it did. Azul Islam saying, BlackBerry promised they would release phones this year in cheap shortage. Shortage situation, not impossible. I think you meant the chip shortage situation. I think there's going to be less, and there's probably still going to be a chance for them to release devices. I mean, we're still at the beginning of Q2 of 2021. And if I'm not mistaken, I think a lot of companies are starting to plan with around the shortage of possible chipsets. I think that's a big factor why Qualcomm's released the 870 and the 860. Two chipsets are essentially a rebrand of 2020 and 2019 chipsets in 2021. It's the silicon. You're going to have to basically try to manage the best that you can. And if you have stock, you need to be able to manage it. I'm not sure what BlackBerry will be able to produce, especially with the new arrangement they're under. But we'll have to see if things kind of work in there. And Aditya, yes, Khalifa is from Qatar as well. Exactly. I love. I think his channel is called I Love Qatar on Instagram, but it's Rakami TV on the YouTube side. Sorry, yeah, that was this comment as well. Dominic Wan say, TK, yeah, I've been to Tunisia and I've heard some Lebanese speaking Arabic in the UK as well. They just sound so different, even though I don't speak Arabic, and they do. They're very like the rolling of the letters or even the connection. You can definitely distinguish the two are not related to each other. But believe it or not, to a certain point, we can communicate and we can read each other's words. It's just that the words mean different things. That's the thing. It's not just the use of the word, but it's also the Tunisia, if I'm not mistaken, Tunisia, Algeria have a lot of heavy French influence into their language. So even though they're speaking Arabic, they'll throw in more French words. Where in Lebanon, more typically, you'll see more straight Arabic or even having straight French. There's also French Arabic mixture a little bit in there. But it is very, 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 very good as far as the approach that we get there. I guess, yeah. Oh, Davin Davis, always, hashtag pool test. Everybody's on there as well. So yeah, I think it's about that time. I will probably say, definitely let's start getting those TKception comments built up as well. Yeah, it is one of those things kind of like I really appreciate. I feel like Spanish speaking takes Portuguese can. I feel it's like Spanish speakers trying to talk Portuguese people. So, okay, I'll say this much. Going to Spain for MWC a few years back, and I was there for a week by myself. I did not have any friends with me that spoke the local language. And I'm talking about Catalan. I'm not talking about Spanish like the Spanish that we have here in, like from Mexico. It took a little bit for me to understand. I understand quite a bit. I'm able to converse. I'm able to have small conversations with people in Spanish. But Catalan is a very different language, and the dialect is so fast and so jacinto. Like it's almost like a very heavy, very fluid, a little bit, not as sharp ending like in Spanish here that we have. It took me some time to adjust. And now, again, this is from a third language speaker to another country that totally didn't get it. But it is very, very always appreciated. Here, okay, sorry, real quick. Donald is saying, TK, I checked Verizon's LG V60. It's $950. Still, even Amazon is so accessories went up, and I think what's happening is this: the demand for LG devices may spike because people are trying to grab them as now thinking the prices are going to go down, and I think what's happening also is the companies have a lot of stock from these devices from last year that potentially hasn't been sold, so they're trying to maybe capitalize on it. Overall, I think most people won't obviously buy them at the high prices. More than likely, they'll wait a little bit. If you're comfortable buying it used, I would probably say just go to Swappa. Swappa is definitely a much better process to be able to pick up a smartphone from them, even a Verizon version of the V60. Personally, it's a very good smartphone that will carry at least a couple more years worth of software updates, and it should be able to perform very, very nicely. The headphone jack is amazing, large display, large battery, stereo speakers. Everything about this phone is great. And if you can pick up the case, it's also a nice option to have a secondary case and pen input on a smartphone from LG. So let me just real quick here. I'll catch the first one. I think we have a few in there. Let me see here. Where is the first one? I think I saw it further up. Oh, here it is. So, okay, Davin Davis started us up with the first. Let's go ahead and share. Last time we did this, it actually worked much faster than I thought it was going to work. So let's do this. 1, 2, 3. Right there. Okay, thank you very much, of course, to everybody. Davin Davis, thank you very much to TKception, TK hashtag pull test alphabet, and hopefully we'll be able to see another collaboration with them as well. Greg, definitely very much. Thank you very much. Donald Lozino as well. Aditya, as always manning the TK fashionable bell. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. And yes, Spanish has always many accent. Chemi, of course, good buddy of mine as well. I wish I one day will be able to hang out again, Chemi. Haven't seen you for quite some time. Joe, always amazing guy. Please make sure to check out his Instagrams. He's both the color and the monochrome channel for Joe Hickey. Always good. TK Tesla Goku Bay, absolutely. Oh, speaking of which, got my first OTA update on my Tesla, and it was crazy. Like, I wasn't even next to the car. I got the notification. I accepted it, pushed it to the car, updated it, and I was ready by the time I got my car. It's crazy. Like, I'm getting OTAs on a car. Like seriously. And I think somebody was mentioning also is, can you drive the car when you're updating it? And you cannot, but definitely very good. Gary the fireman, as always, getting us with, getting the hype train, always going there. TKception, TK Alpha Bay, TK Pool Bay. We're going to have to make it into an Omar kind of a thing. Ranesh, thank you very much. TK Super Saiyan, always. Everybody appreciates, obviously Dragon Ball and all of that, but I appreciate everybody that obviously joins the channel, follows, and is a big supporter of Dragon Ball as well. And of course, Finn, TKception, thank you. That is an interesting. Your thumbnail looks really nice. Richard, thank you very much. Everybody else as well, just for hanging out with us. Dominic Wong, always great to have you on the show. It is one of those things that I appreciate having, on Saturdays with you guys, just to kick it kind of like, even when I was talking to Juan on Thursday and we were chatting about, what are things that are going on, what's happening. This week, like I said, it's a little bit more of a, I'd say like spring break for my son. So we're trying to use that and appreciate having that, the fun time with the family. I like this comment. TK, we're still waiting for the new ROM TK is going to flash on the Tesla. There are so many okay, so there is some mods, not ROMs specifically, but like if there's anything that I would love to do on the Tesla is seriously swap out that processor for the infotainment system that they have in there. They've chosen the slowest processor possible outside of just normal switching around between different modes for the car. But I'm talking like the infotainment system, like opening up YouTube, opening up Hulu, Netflix, so on. It's seriously, they almost like went with the slowest possible processor they could put in there. But that would be the biggest boost I would probably do, is just see if we can do some hardware mods into that. But there are actually some additional modules you're able to add. And one of the really nice things I want to do it now is I want to change the mechanism that holds the display in the middle. I want to get that tilt functionality. I want to have it tilt slightly a little bit more to me when I'm using it, so it feels like it's more of a personal display as opposed to a display for everybody, and I'm just sitting on the left side of it. But we'll see. Snapdragon 888. You know what, Ranesh? I would go with the 865. I don't want to introduce heat or temperature issues. It's like, you drive for too long, or you're doing too many things at the same time, and the things start saying, heat or something like that. That's one of those things we'll have to be, that'll be definitely very involved for sure. But yeah, so with that being said, okay. So did I meet, hold on, that's, there's the man, small keyboard, smartphone. Do you think BlackBerry follow trend? So for smaller devices, so I'll answer here as usual, Islam. We're quick. I think there's a demand for smaller form factor devices. I think that's the biggest thing. We haven't seen a lot of smaller phones come out. The iPhone 12 was, I think, Apple's first approach to providing us a small phone, technically an homage to an older generation of smartphones they used to carry. Smaller keyboards are going to be smaller demands for them. Most people, if you think about it, nowadays are more comfortable using on-display keyboards. It's a different shift than when we were first introduced to keyboards with the Palm Pre, with the Blackberries, and so on. And then you shifted over to Android and obviously iOS, where they went away from the keyboards. Can BlackBerry come back and provide a good solution? Absolutely. The question, though, is there's going to be a lot of challenges coming up against the shortage of chipset, but also typically, what are they going to be able to improve on the experience they've given us in the past? So it's hard. It's hard for BlackBerry. I would probably say for better BlackBerry coverage, check out Tech Odyssey. Adam has been doing great covering a lot of their hardware, and I definitely would recommend you checking out his channel. It's Tech Odyssey. Just Google it on YouTube, and you'll be able to find Adam, another beard brethren on YouTube that does a lot of great content as well. So the 865 for the Tesla, exactly. Better thermals. Always have to think about thermals. But either way, with that being said, again, thank you very much for everybody for hanging out with us here on Saturday Morning with Tech. Very, very, very interesting design, very good build quality overall. And I like the strap. Actually, surprisingly, I'm surprised that the strap on the OnePlus watch is actually, I enjoyed it as much as I am. And yes, if you see me wearing two watches in videos, it's because I am wearing two watches. And I love it when people comment on the videos and they're like, hey, this guy's wearing two watches. Which one is it? And I think a few of them caught that this is the OnePlus watch. So very soon, I should be able to share with you guys a little bit more. I want to get my information off of it, and I want to basically get usability on it also a little bit more. So as usual, thank you very much for everybody for hanging out with us, checking us out, and of course enjoying the show. Everybody, new people on the show, please, if you can, like and subscribe and share. It'll always be helpful. Tanush, Dominic, Gregory, Joe, Rinesh, of course, Aditya, Davin Davis, Gary the Fireman, Dominic, Sharky165, Richard as well, and of course, everybody else hanging out. Hamad is in there as well, Joe, Oliver. I'm trying to go back as fast as I can. Donald Lazino, of course, Greg, as always. And I think I saw Matt Tyler earlier in the show. El Josa's in there as well. ER. Hopefully I'm getting everybody. Oh, Rolando's in there as well. I think I mentioned Joe, Davin. So again, hope you guys are doing great. I hope you're having a great rest of the weekend. Next week's going to be a big TCL and Sony let's just say that much. Both of them on the same day are going to be big. So we'll have to see. And of course, I'm spending more time. I'm going to be working up to the review on the Mi 11 Ultra. It's definitely the Ultra that will surprise you in 2021. I'm not trying to put down the other, the S21. I'm just being realistic into the expectations. They innovated. They changed things. They put new things in there for other devices that you've seen from Xiaomi. Where I felt like Samsung was pretty much just building and in certain situations removing certain things. So we'll have to see how that goes. But again, thank you very much. Stay safe and be safe. And I always say this, but if you can, please reach out to somebody you haven't talked to for some time, an old friend, an old family member you maybe haven't talked to. And believe me, this is perfectly the greatest time to be able to do it. We are well connected across the world as we are able to hang out together on Saturday morning. And of course, with that being said, be safe. I'll see you guys next week on episode 67. Hopefully with more things to talk about. Hope, a little bit more Sony and TCL stuff that we can talk about a little bit next week as well. And of course, take care, everybody. And we'll hopefully just check out Instagram and Twitter. You'll see a lot more pictures of what I'm doing the next few days. Hope you guys have a great weekend. Bye-bye.